The process of groundwater begins with something called infiltration. Infiltration. Writing a little sloppy today. Infiltration. And all infiltration is the action of water soaking into the ground. And the rate that infiltration happens depends on a few things. First of all, the slope of the land. So if we have an area of land that is slanting this way, when it rains, there will be something called runoff. And runoff, if you remember from water cycle, runoff is when the water goes down a slope. All right, and the steeper the slope, and I'll draw a steep slope. The steeper the slope, the faster the runoff, which only makes sense, right? And so if the slope is very shallow, then there will be a slow runoff, and if there's a slow runoff, then of course that will allow more time for water to enter the ground, or water to infiltrate the ground. If there's a fast slope and the runoff is very quick, and I should write the word runoff, and the runoff is very fast, then there won't be a lot of time for the water to kind of seep through, and I'll draw these with smaller arrows, and there won't be as much infiltration. So one of the factors that affect the amount of infiltration has to do with the amount of runoff and the slope of the area. All right, and another aspect of the rate of infiltration, let me just draw kind of a slopey land here, a land with a little angle, and I guess I can draw some clouds and rain just to remind you. All right, so here's the precipitation coming down, and we've got a narrow slope, so the infiltration should be fairly good. But one of the other things that will affect infiltration is something called vegetation. Vegetation, I think that's spelled right. Vegetation. And vegetation is all the plant growth. So if there's a lot of plants, or maybe bushes, or trees, my tree's a little crooked, all right, tall grass, or crops, or whatever might be growing on that land, then when the rain does fall, then there will be less runoff because the vegetation will hold it, and the vegetation, all the plants and the bushes and all the grass and the trees will kind of hold it in place. It'll slow it down, and anything that slows down that water will increase its ability to infiltrate. Again, there's that word again, infiltrate the ground. So a second factor other than the slope of the land will be the vegetation on the land. And then lastly, let's get rid of that. Lastly, the other aspect of the rate of infiltration is the porosity of the land, or how permeable the land is. Porosity means just the amount of pores that the soil is going to have, and the word permeable means refers to the characteristic of the land to have the ability to let water go through. So I mean they're very much synonymous with each other. So if something has a lot of pores, if something has high porosity, it will also be high in permeability. And all that means is that there's a lot of open spaces for the water to enter. So, I mean, I don't know how to draw that in the soil, but just there's a lot of open spaces, so the land isn't stopping the water from entering it, so the water can infiltrate very easily through these holes. So if the water can soak through the land and soak through the soil very easily, that's the third aspect of infiltration. So again, the three parts of infiltration that are affected, or the three characteristics that affect infiltration is: 1, vegetation; 2, the slope. Let's put it here, the slope. And finally, the porosity of the land, or the permeability of the soil, however you want to say it. So again, the three characteristics that will determine how much water will be absorbed by the soil, how much infiltration there will be, is vegetation, the amount of plant life, the slope of the land, and the porosity of the soil.